All right, apologies for the delay here, guys. Appreciate y'all for tuning in today. I figured I'd hit you with a live stream real quick before I head up to Georgia for the Trump rally that's taking place tomorrow. Hopefully, if you're in the area, you come check it out. I'll be interviewing people in the line. So if you're in line, shout me out and maybe I'll put the microphone in your face. But yeah, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Give it a like on your way in. Please do that. Give it a thumbs up, share it, get it on social media. And let's talk about this race baiting, tax evading Al Sharpton, who is no stranger to controversy, pissing people off, just grifting. He's the ultimate race pimp. He's been doing it since the 70s, since Tawana Brawley. And to no one's surprise, he had to show up to the southern border and cash in. And here's how you know that this whole thing is a grift and a lie, because anytime he shows up on scene, you know that there's money to be made. There's something in it for him. It's a publicity stunt. It's a way for him to get his name back in the headlines. At the very least, it's a photo op, so he can look like he's on the right side of history, but everybody's been paying attention, which is why he got heckled. Let's get right into it. Love it. He couldn't even get a word in edgewise as people from all walks of life, every creed represented at this event that he held, this stage propaganda event that this clown fraud held down at Del Rio, Texas. There was a bunch of news cameras there, but it didn't matter because you couldn't hear anything he said, because the people of Del Rio, Texas, let it be known that they did not want him there.
Is the former U.S. ambassador to South Africa,
why are you not being
Patrick
racing at the border?
and to his
40% of children
right,
that have come in unaccompanied are now missing from the
Jennifer
border.
Jones Austin.
Kids are being
Then
sedated
you
at
have
the U.S.
Reverend
border.
Jamal
Why are you not being
Bryant
a voice for the children?
From Atlanta, Georgia, New Birth
He looks flustered.
Baptist Church.
What are you looking around for?
Why are you stoking racism where it doesn't exist?
Pastor of the
Why are you trying to come and provoke violence? Why are you here advocating for violence?
Rainbow
Why are you here advocating for violence?
We went for an
Del
hour
Rio is not a racist city. Del Rio is a loving, caring community.
that we
We don't
feel
want your racism
is
in Texas. Get out of
real
here. Nobody
catastrophic
wants to hear your
and
racist
human
nonsense
disgrace.
in Del Rio.
You love
You're
it.
a
People
You're
Love
a
it.
racist.
around this
Nobody
world
wants you in
watch
Texas.
the border
Nobody wants
do
you in
straight
Texas.
like
Why are you not a voice for the
police
children that have
matters
gone
on
missing at the border?
It
Where are
compelled
your
us to
voice
come
then?
and
Get out
show
with your
our
racism.
voices
Get
and
out
our
with your
presence.
reverse racism.
The Trump
Get out of
supporters
here.
and the right wingers can scream all they want.
Okay, so you hear what he said right there? If you couldn't make out what he said the Trump supporters and the extremists can say whatever they want. But I think he said Trump supporters and racists, if I'm not mistaken. But the guy that's shouting over him said that Del Rio is a loving and caring community. Why is he bringing his racism here? See, they always project. It's always projection. This guy loves to focus solely on race. That is the only thing that drives his business, that drives his profit, focusing on skin color. That is Al Sharpton in a nutshell. He's been doing it for decades, drawing attention to race. And he's racist against everybody. He doesn't like white people. He doesn't like Jewish people. He doesn't like black people that don't toe the Democrat Party line. And I know this firsthand because when I went to Washington, D.C. for the first ever Young Black Leadership Summit, and Trump invited all these young black people to the White House, Al Sharpton went on MSNBC and said that Trump supporters, or black Trump supporters that were there, were paid to be at this event. Trump paid black people to come to the White House. And he spent the entire segment trashing the Young Black Leadership Summit, saying that they purchased MAGA hats to give to all these black people and we were used as props. And he just straight up lied, just brainwashed the MSNBC audience, because the people that watch that, the people that take in that information are being lied to on a constant basis. And he knows that. That's why he had to paint that narrative. But these people here in El Paso, or not El Paso, people in Del Rio weren't having it.
We're going to continue to come back. We're going to stand with our people to make sure that asylum is treated in one way, in one manner. And we will continue to come back over and over again. For people to be treated like this.
No, you can't even hear.
And for people to feel.
This is perfect. This is how it's supposed to be. See, these elitists, these liars, they can't go anywhere. They cannot go anywhere without being heckled. And that's why I say the tide must be turning, because just like with Nancy Pelosi going anywhere, Joe Biden going anywhere, Kamala Harris, they're met with opposition. They're met with people shouting them down. That's how it should be. They shouldn't be able to get on a microphone and spit their propaganda. Now, this is a proud puppet for a long time, drumming up racism, creating racism, manufacturing racism where it doesn't exist. And he only came down here because there was something in it for him. It was him to grift off of and make it look like I said, he's on the right side of history. He's doing the right thing. But in reality, this is a race grifting fraud. He is a fraud, a propagandist, a liar, a puppet for the establishment, people that want to drive a wedge between people based on race. Because if we're divided by race, then we don't look at their hypocrisy. So that's the Reverend Al Sharpton for you in a nutshell. This grifter and fraud from decades ago. For as long as I can remember, my entire life, I remember seeing him on TV. Every time there was an instance where either there was alleged racism or none at all, he went and made sure that the narrative, the going away narrative, was that racism was a factor. So he goes down to the border to try to protest against what he sees as inhumane deportations, inhumane treatment of Haitians. Well, you got a lot of money, Al Sharpton. What exactly are you doing? See, it's all these celebrities, that these rich elitists that always say what we should do, what Americans should do. We need to take these people in. We're not treating them right. We're being inhumane. How many are you going to take in? How many are you going to take in, Al Sharpton? Why don't you fly down there on your private jet and take some of those Haitian immigrants into your house? Take them onto your estate. Take on the burden of new people in the country. Take them under your wing. Use your money to bankroll their lifestyle. Because as I covered yesterday, a lot of the people that crossed the border were just upgrading from living in Chile and Brazil, which is why they left their ID cards on the other side of the border, so they could appear like they were refugees coming straight from Haiti. A lot of them have already been living in better conditions than they left from. So these are not refugees. They're economic migrants looking to upgrade. Why? Because Biden's in the White House inviting them up there. So with that said, Al Sharpton was only there to push a false narrative and to drum up racism. And I'm proud of these patriots that called him out. They shouted him down. He wasn't able to get his message across, and he ended up leaving and calling everybody Trump supporters, because anyone who meets him with opposition must have supported Donald Trump. It couldn't just be that they realize he's a disgusting person. It must be that they voted for Trump. That's the typical little trope that they use, is to say, oh, it's the Trump supporters. The Trump supporters were down there heckling me. That's his story. That's his excuse. It's not that people can see that he's a fraud, grifting liar. Calling him Reverend is just blasphemous. I hope nobody actually refers to him as Reverend Al Sharpton. He is a grifter, and I love to see it. I love to see that people can actually call him out. I mean, it's people like him. It's the poverty pimps like Maxine Waters and Sheila Jackson Lee that love to keep this racial narrative going, love to brainwash specifically Black people, try to get the attention on this. Like, hey, look, all you need to know about these illegal immigrants crossing our border is that they're Black. And because they're Black, you have to have sympathy for them. So you should be okay with them crossing the border illegally. And also look at these white men on horseback whipping them. Hasn't that been thoroughly debunked? It's been debunked, but they're still running with the narrative. And now they've banned the usage of horses on the border, because I guess Border Patrol agents should just book it and just run behind a bunch of people dispersing on foot. That's what they should do. Or better yet, just not enforce the laws at all. Just bend over and just let it happen. Is that what they're asking? That's what they're saying? Is that why all the attention is focused on these Border Patrol officers instead of the people who allowed this to happen? I mean, Kamala Harris didn't even open her mouth until she was able to point the finger and blame someone else for the disaster down there. Same with Joe Biden. And now Al Sharpton. Everybody's cashing in. They see this as a cash cow, a way to grift, a way to keep the narrative going, a way to flip the narrative, because the narrative, this is all on Joe Biden. Make no mistake, if Trump were in office and we had everything that just went on, they would be like, Trump instructed the Border Patrol agents to whip these immigrants. They would pin it on Trump. But since Biden is in the White House, they pin it on the Border Patrol agents. So they're the fall guys, when all they were doing was enforcing the law. Nobody got whipped. You can see the images and the videos. Nobody got whipped. And if, like I said, if it were Trump, that would be the ongoing narrative. That would be the story from now into the beginning of 2022. Just like how children were being ripped away from their mothers and thrown in cages. All of the rhetoric around it. Children are being ripped from their mothers. Babies are thrown in cages. Now it's like family separation is common as migrants cross the border. And in some cases, minors have to be temporarily stationed in what are called overflow facilities. As soon as the Republicans in there, children are being ripped and thrown in cages. People are waking up to that garbage, that BS, and they're not letting race grifters and hustlers like Al Sharpton get away with this. It's just a thing of beauty. It was music to my ears to see he was being shouted down. You couldn't hear what he was saying because everybody knew when his lips were moving, BS was flying out of his lips. The man is a liar. So I love it. And he's honestly, if I could just be totally straight up honest, the world will be a better place when he's gone. He is a terrible person. He does nothing to unite the country. He does everything to divide the country. And he loves cashing in on the plight of Black people. He loves to find instances where he can make a buck, where he can fly. He flew to Minneapolis before the for the Derek Chauvin trial. He took his private jet and he had an Instagram photo of him in front of his private jet talking about, I'm off to Minneapolis to go put pressure on the jury to make sure they convicted Chauvin. So that's the other thing too, is he stirs up chaos. He's a part of the mob, a part of the leftist mob. He's a proud puppet. He loves being used and abused because there's something in it for him. You talk about sellouts, how they'll call people like me sellouts. This is the biggest sellout I've ever seen in my life. This man right here is a sellout. He will sell out anybody if it makes him $1. There's so much money in grifting. They say conservatives are the ones grifting online with their social media. Yeah, right. If we're allowed to even have a platform, we get censored, silenced, shadow banned. The real grift is if you can call out racism, if you can find racism under every rock, there's money in it for you. He just happens to be a professional at it. He has cornered the market on race baiting, race hustling, race pimping, creating racism where it doesn't exist, stoking the flames. Tawana Brawley, that was a hoax, saying she was raped by a bunch of white dudes. That was a hoax, and that was in the 70s, and that's when he was real big. That's why I use that photo for the thumbnail. If you look at this, man, this dude, Al Sharpton, I'm telling you, scum. And speaking of his private jet, that's another thing with these celebrities, with these entertainers, with the people that are constantly tell you this country's systemically racist, immigrants are being inhumanely treated, climate change is our World War II, and we're safer together, stay at home and listen to the science, trust the science. These people don't follow the science. They have bigger carbon footprints. They don't practice what they preach. They tell you everything that you should be doing. They don't do it themselves. And you got this climate change situation. And Al Sharpton is a prime example of somebody who probably preaches the same climate change narrative to you. His job is specifically for the Black community. He needs to keep the Black people brainwashed. He's on the same level as a Roland Martin, just a gatekeeper, a propagandist, somebody that's just a mouthpiece for Democrats, for government takeover. That's all they are. And that's what climate change is. That's why we're going to segue right into this climate change narrative. So 10 celebrities, and these obviously way more than 10 celebrities who travel on their own private jets. Al Sharpton being one of them. Taylor Swift, Bill Gates. Bill Gates has his own private jet. Look at his private jet right here. And there's another article, I just closed it out, where it says how much carbon emissions that each one of them emitted. And this was like an estimate, like 1,600 tons or something like that. For Bill Gates, it's over 2,000 tons. You can tell right here, the founder of Microsoft has a 40 million Bombardier BD 700 Global Express jet. It has room for 19 people. See, it doesn't tell you how much carbon emissions that this thing puts out, but it's a lot. Tiger Woods, Angelina Jolie, Jay-Z and Beyonce, the Beckhams, Oprah Winfrey. Lots to talk about with her, but I'm not even going to get into it. Jim Carrey, another person that talks about climate change. Look at Jim Carrey's private jet. Celine Dion, Tom Cruise. Can't forget about Leonardo DiCaprio, Mr. Climate Change himself. I get tired of these climate change frauds and hypocrites, just like you have frauds in the race baiting, grifting sector of their own little economy. That's what it is for them. It's their own little economy. What's the business looking like in the world of race grifting? What's the business looking like in the climate change sector? Let's push the climate change narrative. Leonardo DiCaprio. And the list goes on and on. There's no reason to go through the list of everybody that has a private jet. That's just one example. But Leonardo DiCaprio flew around the world in his private jet to push climate change propaganda. Yet Al Gore, he's a fraud and a hypocrite. Big time carbon footprint. You got John Kerry with his carbon footprint, his private jet. He flew out to Martha's Vineyard for Obama's super spreader event. Could just keep going with that. But now these late night talk show hosts, you had Stephen Colbert, Trevor Noah, Seth Meyers, Samantha Bee, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and what's his name? James Corden or something like that. They all got on the same page calling it Climate Night. So Climate Night in America was 2 nights ago, and they all were getting together. Remember I said where they all get in line to push one singular agenda? You know you need to tune it out. Anytime these elites all get on the same page to tell you one thing, you know that it's BS and the opposite is probably true. Or at the very least, there's more to the story than what they're telling you. So you had all of these late night talk show hosts, and Stephen Colbert, to his credit, even admitted that he's a hypocrite. He admitted he's not willing to change his ways for the greater good. And that's why he advocates for the government to force people. So you see how that works? See how they do the little bait and switch? Let's talk about this. They call it a climate intervention. So Stephen Colbert used that as an opportunity to brainwash his audience, propagandize them, gaslight them essentially, to surrender their rights, surrender their tax money to the government so that we can lower carbon emissions and cool the planet. That's what we need to do. And of course, he provided no explanation of how we're going to do this. All he says is the government should be in charge of climate change, just like they should be in charge of health, just like they should be in charge of everything else that they claim to be fighting for on behalf of we the people for the greater good. You know, everything that they've launched a war on just created more of it. War on drugs, war on terror, war on poverty. How much drugs, terror, and poverty do you see around? A lot. After they've waged wars on it. And now they're going to wage a war on a climate. So what is that going to look like? Right? So at least Stephen Colbert had the balls to admit that he's a hypocrite and he has no plans of changing. You know? I mean, all these people have private jets. They ride around in limousines. They use so much more CO2. They emit so much more CO2 than you probably will in your whole life. They probably do that in 1 year. So all of these frauds on the late night, Trevor Noah, John Oliver, all of them, decided to push the propaganda. Now, here's another interesting thing I want to talk about here. The failed global warming predictions that you need to know about. Number one, goes back to the 1970s. They called it global cooling. Global cooling is the real problem. And they started stoking those fears back in the 70s. The world is going to be cooler. Then prediction number two, if global warming isn't reversed by the year 2000, it will be too late to avert the catastrophe. So they went from global cooling to global warming, acid rain, ice age, and now they just call it climate change. So they just shift it completely. And this climate, when you talk about climate change, they love to use kids to push this agenda. Like you wouldn't believe, they use so many kids to push it. They have kids thinking that they're not going to have a future. They were doing it to me. I remember in elementary school, them talking about acid rain and global warming. I remember that specifically. Yeah, the temperature of the world is going to heat up by the year 2000. We're going to be frying. It's going to be really hard to live a normal life. And now they got kids really scared for the future to where they're out marching. Remember, they were skipping class a couple years ago, skipping class to go march. When we know half the kids were skipping class because you get to skip class, not go in the classroom. But the rest of them, they get out there, they make all these signs that end up in the garbage. Bunch of kids went to Dianne Feinstein's office. Do y'all remember that? The bunch of kids went to Dianne Feinstein's office, and a couple kids were crying. They were scared. They're like, please vote for the Green New Deal, please. And Dianne Feinstein was like, there's no way to pay for it. We can't pay for this. She was looking almost shocked. Like, did you really bring all these kids in here? Looking at the teacher, like, why did you bring all these kids in here to talk to me about climate change? Looking at the teacher like, you know damn well that there's no way to pay for this, that the Green New Deal is not feasible. It's bad when even Dianne Feinstein is like, this is a bit much. So they use kids to push their climate change agenda after they lie about all these different predictions. Great Britain will be almost snowless thanks to global warming. That was back in the year 2000. That was supposed to happen. Snow is going to be a thing of the past in other places too. Yeah, that was a report from 2001. We only have 50 days to save the world from global warming. That was in 2009. Prince Charles says we only have 96 months to save the world. Who says that? 96 months? How many years is that? 10 years? I have no idea. But he said that in, it doesn't say what year he said it in. Oh, well, the deadline of it passed in 2017. So yeah, we're still here. None of these doomsday prophecies have come to fruition. The earth will warm by 3 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit by 2025. Okay, it's 2021. So we've got 4 years for the earth to drastically warm by 3 degrees. But if we just give money to the government, surrender all of our freedom to the government, and allow a handful of elites in Washington, D.C. to control every aspect of our lives, we can maybe cool the temperature by a fraction of a degree over the next 50 years. Maybe, but they won't explain how. Just that they need more power and you need less freedom. That's all they'll tell us. So they just continue to traffic it in. Most species on Earth will perish by 1995. Y'all get that? Most species on Earth will perish by 1995. And this is from 1970. It says back in 1970, around the time of the first Earth Day, Democrat Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nelson wrote an article for Look magazine. In it, he repeated one of the most preposterous claims in the whole climate change / pollution movement. Dr. S. Dillon Ripley, secretary of the Smithsonian Institute, believes that in 25 years, somewhere between 75 and 80% of all the species living will be extinct. I mean, it's just, yeah, guys, can't make this stuff up. And apparently every new hurricane is due to climate change. Remember this sad image right here. What you're looking at is a levee that broke in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina, they love to use what happened in Hurricane Katrina as the biggest reason why climate change is real and the science is settled. But what they forget to tell you is that New Orleans sits below sea level. New Orleans flooded not because of a hurricane, but because of the failing infrastructure in that city, because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers failed. You can't have a city sitting below sea level and then the levees aren't well maintained. The infrastructure is not solid enough to keep water back. That's what happened. Levees broke and flooded the city. That's not because of climate change. That's because of poor management. Taxpayer funds going towards failing infrastructure. Infrastructure that failed, but they call that climate change. New York City flooded about 3 weeks ago. Remember that? It was crazy. They blamed that on climate change. So climate change is why the subways are flooding. It's not because New York City is just a concrete jungle and water has nowhere to go. You're going to blame it on a storm, a rainstorm. See, this is the thing. Man wants to be God. So man thinks he can conquer the earth, when in reality, we're all a couple natural disasters away from becoming extinct. But you have a handful of people who are so narcissistic that think that if you just give us all your money, let us control your life, we can change the course of action in our world. We can change the direction our world is heading in. Meaning climate change, we can change it. It's our existential threat, says AOC. And just the hyperbole they use. It is our World War II. We've got 10 years to pass this Green New Deal. And oh, by the way, we're not going to abide by these rules. Just like with the 2020 sickness, we're not abiding by the rules. You have to. The same will be true for this climate change tyranny that's coming. That's what I think. Make no mistake about it. The climate change tyranny is coming. If you thought the 2020 sickness tyranny was bad, wait until we have our first climate lockdown. Just wait until social media says you're not allowed to criticize climate change. They already say you're not allowed to provide any contrary information as it relates to the 2020 sickness. You can't challenge the 2020 selection. You're not allowed to talk about that. Next will be you can't challenge climate change. Your post will be removed and marked as climate change disinformation if you disagree with whatever bureaucracy is governing the political or the discourse around it. If you disagree with that discourse, whatever information is disseminated from that bureaucracy, if you disagree with it, your post will be censored. That's coming. Make no mistake about it. So these late night talk show hosts are just pure propagandists. Late night. I don't even know who watches them anymore. Honestly, I vaguely remember as a child, my grandpa would turn on Johnny Carson at night. And I would watch Johnny Carson as a young boy, probably 5-6 years old. And my grandpa would laugh at it. He said he's one of the best. I remember watching David Letterman. I actually liked David Letterman. Jay Leno. They weren't really, they might have been propagandists, but nothing like this. Nothing at all like this. I'm pretty sure they probably leaned liberal. They probably been more left. Maybe Jay Leno was more conservative. I don't know. It doesn't even matter because they didn't really put their political views on Front Street. They didn't lecture half the country. They were actually funny. The ratings showed. Now, who watches any of these people? How unfunny is Trevor Noah? They all push the same orange man bad, Republicans bad, conservatives bad. Oh, and they even opened up their little episode last night bashing Christians and conservatives. They basically blame the religious community for the disinformation of climate change. Remember, guys, just remember, if you take nothing else away from this live stream, take away this. None of these people, none of them will ever do what they're telling you to do. None of them. not for a second, not ever. They're going to continue on their tirades, lecturing you while they continue to travel the world on their private jets. They have giant, massive compounds, big carbon footprint. They travel everywhere they go by private jet, big cars. But they don't even want you having a hamburger. You can't have a cookout in your backyard. None of them put their money where their mouth is. They talk about how we need to do this. We have income inequality. These celebrities could solve income inequality overnight. How come they won't give up their own money? Why do they wait for government action? Because government action actually takes my money. It takes your money. It doesn't take theirs. It takes our money. Why can't they just bypass government and start spreading the wealth? They all want to be socialists. Why not lead by example? They never will. Ever will. They'll just be a permanent elite ruling class, and you'll just be one of the serfs. But a sizable portion of our population buys into this. They watch these late night shows, Jimmy Kimmel and all them, and they take it in. They're like, yes, we need to do something about climate change. But the conservatives are blocking it. The science deniers. Remember, these are the people that also say that there are like infinite amount of genders, and, you know, it's not a baby inside the womb. It's not a baby until it's born. But they want you to trust the science. 90% of scientists agree. You mean 90% of the scientists that you fund and you don't censor on social media agree? Is that what you mean? Those scientists agree. The scientists who you funded their research, those scientists agree. Mr. Bill Gates himself, Mr. Eat Synthetic Beef, gonna shoot dust up and block the sun. Mr. I'm buying up all the farmland in America. Yeah, do you trust this? You trust Bill Gates? I mean, Mr. Climate Change Bill Gates rode on the Lolita Express more than a few times. How much carbon was emitted from the Lolita Express that Bill Gates rode on? Mr. I hung out with a convicted pedophile, but I also am pushing public health. I care about public health and philanthropy. Not enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Yeah, these are the people trying to orchestrate and control society. They're going to organize society if you just trust them. Surrender your money to Washington, D.C. Give up all your freedom, give up your guns, give up your rights, and we can have a better world. No more hurricanes. It sounds absurd, but guess who's most likely to believe all of that? Kids. Kids are impressionable. Kids are gullible. It's easy to lie to kids, manipulate them. That's why the left does it. Children are instrumental to their revolution, just like they were to Mao, just like they were to Hitler. The Hitler Youth. Mao drove a revolution, the Great Leap Forward. He had a lot of kids on board with that agenda. That's why they have so many kids pushing climate change propaganda, gun control propaganda, critical race theory, and now immigration. You see how they just continue cycling through. They'll just keep cycling through. That's everything I had to say today, guys. I'm going to pull up the chat here. This is a short stream. I got to get ready. I got to travel today. But yeah, appreciate you all for being here. Let me pull up the chat here. I think I got a super chat. Yes, Luciano, thank you so much. Hashtag Vostok Ice Core Samples. I'm not sure what that means. Correction, Glenn Jacobs Kane is the mayor in Tennessee since 2018. I got my southern states mixed up. Oh, I didn't see what you said before that, Luciano. But man, someone said, oh, he caused a real racial divide with Tawana Brawley. You talking about Al Sharpton, Al Sharpton? I mean, it's Al Sharpton. It was Jesse Jackson. Now he's a little too old to be out there. And then you got this guy, Benjamin Crump. He's the black ambulance chaser. That's Benjamin Crump. I mean, he got all these families paid think he got Michael Brown's family paid big time. He's on the case, and they claim it's racial justice. We shall overcome, except we're never going to overcome, because if we overcome, then there's no need for you anymore. That means your jig is up. The grift is over. Someone said, I have no doubt Sharpton is a CIA operative, just like El Chapo, but in a different category. Al Sharpton, there must be something. I mean, I don't know. There must be something. There must be some reason. He must be some kind of informant. I think there's actually a story about him being an informant. But he also owes a lot of back taxes. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. They talk about Trump's taxes, but don't want to talk about Al Sharpton. See, they want to pry into your life. If your bank account has more than $600, Joe Biden's going to weaponize the IRS to spy on you, to know what your transactions are. But nobody's ever going to spy on his son making $500 million off of paintings. No one wants to talk about that, or how Joe Biden got rich, how Obama got rich. Nancy Pelosi, how did they accumulate so much wealth as public servants? Tell me that's any different than third world countries, corrupt, poor countries. We give all this foreign aid. We dump all this foreign aid into Haiti. We've given them billions of dollars. And where does that money go? Somebody is getting rich in Haiti, but it never trickles down to the people that need it most. And the answer is always throw more money at the problem. Let's send them more foreign aid. What they need is more foreign aid. On top of the billions we gave them, we can't see the results of that the billions of dollars we sent over there. Let's send more. The more we send, the better off they'll be. And in the process of doing that, it collapses our country, devalues our currency. Cost of goods and services goes up because they're just printing money, and then giving it away. Patricia said, thank you, Mike. See you at Perry, Georgia tomorrow at the Trump rally. Yeah, I'll see you out there. Yes, there's a Trump rally tomorrow, Patty. It is in Perry, Georgia. Yeah, for whatever reason, this one didn't. I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't talked about as much, wasn't promoted, but yeah. He's only been holding roughly one rally per month. I mean, going back to June, he's held a rally every month. I think he'll get up to a more consistent number next year, because next year is midterms. So someone said Arizona audit at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. Trump got this. It's all over now. No comment. Always Trump supporters, right? So now we take away their horses and whips. What do you want them to do? Use harsh language? Yeah, they should use harsh language. And see, these Marxists that don't want us to have borders at all, that's why they want to abolish ICE. They think everybody should be able to come into the country. These utopian concepts that they push, everyone should have this. No one should be homeless in the United States. Every child should have food on their table. I agree with those things. Nobody should be homeless. No child should go hungry. Everybody who wants a better life should be able to have a better life. But that's not how reality works. And see, what the left does is they struggle against reality. That's why they're the most unhappy people on the planet, because they focus on things that are not practical. Their solutions are contrary to the laws of nature and reality and truth. So they think we should just have as many people coming here as they want to come here. And somehow we'll just make it work. We'll just raise taxes on the middle class. They'll pay for it. We know none of these rich celebrities will do it. They'll write it off in their taxes. They'll make sure that they can avoid. They all have tax avoidance strategies. Make no mistake about it. All these foundations they dump money into. Oh, we're going to build schools in this area. They never give cash directly to people. Why not just go put some homeless people in homes? Why not go buy up? You could buy all the people off Skid Row, since you want to. They always love to present it as like a one size fits all. Everybody's homeless for these reasons, because capitalism. They ignore that there could be a drug addiction problem, mental health. There could be any number of reasons why somebody is homeless. But their solution is always like, oh, we just need to raise taxes. So if that's the case, why don't you just go buy all the houses you can and put homeless people in those houses? Use your own money. Wouldn't that be 10 times faster than Congress, waiting on Congress to get something done? See, they're all in it together. They're all in it together, these elitists. And you know people, I know people that will shill for them and try to turn the attention back on us. They would turn the attention back on me rather than look into what I'm saying, rather than realize that that's true. They'll come after me. Jim Carrey paints with his blood. He needs to be wrapped up in a straitjacket. I didn't know that. Not surprised. I mean, Tony Hawk put his blood in paint. I mean, they're always playing these little demonic games, this weird stuff, weird ritualistic practices, spirit cooking, everything else. Don't even get me started. It's Friday. I'm not trying to go that far. Mike is an amazing man. Be safe on your trip. Enjoy it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. That's humbling. You can't stop Mother Nature. You can if you just give more tax money to Nancy Pelosi and the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. You can if you just stop eating hamburgers and driving your truck. Don't worry about John Kerry's private jet. Listen to him about your carbon footprint and how we need to make some big changes in order to reverse the course of climate change. That's all that matters. We can stop Mother Nature if we just give politicians in DC more power. New Orleans has always flooded. I mean, there's so many different examples about climate change. I mean, if the climate change situation is real, why do so many people have oceanfront property? Why do banks keep investing? Why do they give 30-year mortgages? How did I get a 30-year mortgage? How does anyone in Florida, especially if you live near the coast, get a 30-year mortgage? That's not a good investment for the bank. If we have now, I think 10 years left, according to AOC, she said we had like 12 years 2 years ago. If the sea levels are rising that fast and we're all dead, why would the banks bother giving out loans? Why are people building on the coastlines? Why are we evacuating New York City? Why aren't we evacuating some of these areas? Why aren't we all moving inland? Why aren't the people that cry and complain about climate change the most still drive cars? Don't get me wrong. We should I agree with improving the quality of our environment. I don't agree with polluting oceans, and I don't like what it does to the wildlife. I don't like any of that. But because I don't agree with their stupid solution that leaves me with less freedom and then more power, that means I'm a climate change science denier. That's how it works. But in reality, the people that complain about this the most have made little to no changes at all. Some of their solutions is solar panels and windmills. And it's like, but you still need fossil fuels in the infrastructure. Like fossil fuels are embedded in the infrastructure to mine for all the cobalt and everything that you need to make these solar panels. I actually believe it was Michael Moore who had a documentary. It was either this year or last year. He was exposing all of the green energy grift. There's grift in everything. There's grift. There's the Fauci grift in the medical thing with the 2020 sickness. There's the Al Sharpton grift with racism is everywhere. It's raining from the sky. And then you've got the climate change grifters that want to, brag about their Teslas and all the electric energy and stuff, but they're still using fossil fuel and they're using more of it. They're using more of it to power their infrastructure. Right? I mean, you can just go on and on and on with these liars. That is it. I think I've said everything, but I appreciate everybody that's been here in the chat. Please, everyone, make sure that you Give it a thumbs up. Someone said, I saw Mike on the Brandon Tatum live panel a while back. No, that wasn't me. I've never been on Brandon Tatum's live panel. If he invited me, I would gladly go on, but I don't think he's ever invited me on there. But no, I've never been on his live panel. Contrary to what Hillary Clinton said about Eric Holder, we don't all look alike. She once said that. She joked about it. They all look like. Mike is not just an intelligent man keeping us informed with facts and bringing patriots together. He acts on what he speaks about, which is beyond admirable. Much appreciation for that. Thank you so much, Yvette. I appreciate you for that. All electric cars by 2030, Biden says. Yeah, we'll see about that. Marissa says, I'm late. First time watching. Where's the rally? It's in Perry, Georgia tomorrow. Perry, Georgia tomorrow, probably 7 p.m. is when he speaks. He's usually 7 or 8 p.m. Someone said anything that has plastic uses oil. You know what? I've seen so many face covers on the ground too. All of the trash, all the pollution. The people that claim they care about climate change, are they going to go clean up the border after that homeless encampment is cleaned up? After it's done, after all the refugees are gone, the immigrants, whether they are deported or let into the country, there's going to be a lot of trash and pollution down there. A lot of waste is going to be left there. Who's going to clean it up? It's not going to be anybody from the late night talk show crew. None of them will organize cleanup crews. They won't even go clean up their own cities. They leave in their limousines and go back to their estates. They drive past in their limousines. They drive past all of the human filth and waste of the policies that they support. Those are all just consequences of the policies that they push, and the agenda that they push leaves squalor in its wake, and they just ride on by it. Yvette said, I would love to see you and Brandon Tatum. I think it would be great, but I've met him before, but I don't know if he remembers me or not. I know he's had other people on there. Maybe reach out to him. Maybe he'll invite me on. I would love to go on there. I've seen Jericho Green on there, Anthony Brian Logan. I've seen other people on. Mike, you must have awesome parents. Much love to you, bro. Thank you. My parents are pretty awesome. They just raised me to be an independent thinker. They never told me what to think. They just told me how to, or not. They never told me what to think. They just said, they told me how to think. Like, think for yourself. If that makes any sense. They didn't push any ideas on me. They definitely didn't say, you can't do anything because you're black, or it's going to be harder for you to succeed in this world because you're black. It's really sad. There are a lot of people. I even know some people who have kids now, and I see their, like, people that I went to college with or whatever, and I see them push like the BLM agenda, and there's some of their posts on social media about how, you know, my son's going to have to work really hard. My son's going to have to look over his shoulder every time wondering if a white person's going to call the cops on him for wearing a hoodie. And I'm like, you're damaging your kid beyond repair. Before they even get a chance to experience the world, you're projecting your views and your experience on them. You're basically setting them up for failure. And I just think it's sad. I mean, I guess you're allowed to set your kid up that way if you want, but I just don't see how that helps them, to tell them that the world's out to get them and they have to work 10 times as hard as the white man to get anywhere in the world. It's like, right, because there's no examples of black people that have persevered in times where there was actual racism and real barriers blocking their entry to wealth and prosperity. I mean, they don't even, it's like all the people that push this just forget that America twice elected a black dude to be the leader. No other majority white country in the history of the world has ever done that. America did it not once, but twice. So, you know, it wasn't a fluke. Kevin's Corner is awesome too. Yeah, I like Kevin's Corner. I've collaborated with him a couple times. I've called into his show. This was like years ago when I was first getting started. Joe Kerr says, I'm friends with Joy Villa. I can hook you up with Brandon. Yeah, I bet if I was on the Brandon Tatum show, I could get some followers from there, because I mean he might even have more subs than RSBN. Actually, he's way up there, and I've been following him since the beginning, like since I was even living in Minneapolis. Like him and Anthony Brian Logan are the two YouTube channels that I found when I was looking into this whole, did black people really vote for Trump? I was looking into all this stuff after he got elected. And I found Brandon Tatum's channel when he had like as many subs as I have now. So this is like 4 years ago. Feel sorry for kids who have unhinged teachers. They couldn't handle Hillary lost the election. Let's see. It's so sad, Mike. Did you see the video of the black schoolgirls yelling at the white school boys who supported police with a sticker and said Biden wasn't their president on a t-shirt? I have not seen that yet. Honestly, I can't even send it to me. DM it to me. There's so many videos out. I can't even keep track of it anymore. It's just mind-boggling. It's like every day there's new videos. Oh, my little man's fussing out there. I'm going to have to go spring into action. I got to go be super dad. Mike, you are great on RSBN as a commentator. They should use you more. No comment on there, but yes, I agree. And thank you for the compliment. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Maybe one day. Anyway, we need him on Brandon Tatum. They are both extremely intelligent, patriotic, and Christian men. Asked to interview him. You guys have to understand, it's not as easy as you think to just reach out to people. I had someone yesterday in the live stream saying, you should just call Dan Bongino and get yourself onto on Rumble. Just find Dan Bongino and just talk to him. Like, it's not that easy to talk to people that have millions of followers. They're always traveling. They're always busy. They don't know who I am half the time. It's not that easy. And if it is easy and like, do that on my behalf, please. Please. If you want to see it, you could flood their mentions and say, hey, you got to have this person on your channel. Strengthen numbers, right? That's the way I see it. Mike, I love the pictures of you and your new baby, my brother. Thank you. Man, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this world. He is going to be armed with his brain that will think and interpret the world through his own eyes, his own experiences. I'm not going to project my experiences on him. I will explain to him why we have what we have in this country. I'll make sure he has an understanding of what the United States is and what it means, this experiment, this freedom experiment. I'll explain to him, like, you were born free. You were born into this. And then I will explain the opposite of that. You can have all these things and it's free. It's yours. The world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. Or you can give power, money to a group of people, and then they can provide all of that for you. You can get it yourself, or you can give money and power to people and they can provide that for you, which they won't. But you get my point. That's if we have a country left. This is true. We may not have a country left. That's very much true. Someone said, put your chat on live near the top. What does that do? I usually have it on live. I don't know what happened. Salty Cracker shouts you out all the time. If you know, you know. The salt must flow. Yeah, I shouted out Salty Cracker like 4 months ago when I was on a boat tour, a boat parade in Tampa. And the guy on our boat had on the Salty Cracker shirt, that shirt. And I was like, I told the cameraman, zoom in on that shirt, guys. If you know, you know. And this was like 10 o'clock in the morning. This was an early morning stream. And little did I know, he was watching that stream. Mike, please try to invite Jordan Conradson to your stream. He's done an outstanding job covering the AZ audit. I don't know who that is, honestly. I haven't not been paying attention. Tatum denies Christ. I didn't know. No, he doesn't. If he does, I've never seen that. Who says that? Like, where? Show me the proof of that. As far as I know, he's a Christian man. You can definitely expect a false flag to commence today prior to the Arizona audit public release. It already started. I don't know, man. This Arizona audit thing, I got breaking news on my phone from, I don't know if it was the Gateway Pundit or something that said that the audit didn't show anything. But that's not something that I even paid. Like, I don't know. I just haven't given that my attention, because if there's truth that's going to come out of it, then it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. If something's going to change, it's going to change. If the wheels are in motion, they're in motion. Anyway, people talking about this. Brandon Tatum literally said Christ isn't God. I don't know what y'all are referring to. I haven't seen the video in question. If that's what you're referring to, I have no idea. And the chat must be rolling really slow. But anyway, guys, I'm wrapping this up. I got to get ready to travel, but I appreciate y'all for tuning in today on this live stream. Make sure that you give it a thumbs up, get it in front of some eyeballs by sharing. Let's get the engagement up. I'll be reporting live from Perry, Georgia tomorrow for the Trump rally. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I think, but we'll be live probably all day. So make sure you are subscribed on RSBN. Check it out tomorrow. Yeah, that's it. That's all I can say. Thank you all for tuning in today. God bless you. I'll catch you in the next stream.